Hello, Motorrad World fans, and welcome to this episode of Paddock Talk, where we're going to focus on World Superbikes, who've just had their most recent round out at the Marco Simoncelli circuit at Mizano in beautiful Italy. One of the best places to go watch motorcycle racing. I've been fortunate enough to be there for a MotoGP round, and what a spectacular venue to host motorcycle racing. The World Superbikes were there, and a little bit boring with Alvaro Bautista at the front. Bautista and Ducati making things a little bit boring at the front end of World Superbikes. Some good little battles all the way through the field, and in this video we're just going to kind of dissect and go through each rider, manufacturer, team, and just analyze where they are at the moment, what could be potentially happening, and some of the big rumors that have come out of the paddock after this weekend's event out at Mizano. So we're going to start off with Alvaro Bautista, and before I get into Bautista, I'd like to send a note out to Ducati. Please, please, please keep one of your riders in that beautiful canary yellow, whatever color you want to call it, that you brought out for the Mizano race. I think it looked absolutely spectacular. I think it looked gorgeous, and I really do think it would be a great addition to just keep one of those color schemes going for the year. So keep Alvaro Bautista in the traditional red #1 plate. That looks fantastic. But Rinaldi, put him in that nice yellow color scheme. I just think it is so iconic to Ducati. Remember the 916 and the 998s and all those beautiful yellow color schemes from years gone by. Frankie Keeley rocked it in World Superbikes for a while. I just think it'll be a great addition to the World Superbike paddock if you have that more full time. One rider in red, one rider in yellow. Ducati, make it happen. Also, why not bring out one of your production versions in that color? The V4R, the V4S, please. I just think it's absolutely beautiful, and I really think it'll be a great addition to your range and the paddock as well. So there, let's get back now into Alvaro Bautista and his domination with Ducati. The big argument is that Alvaro Bautista, he only wins because of his weight. In every press conference, he's asked about it. Scott Redding and other riders have brought it up. They need a weight penalty in World Superbikes. Scott Smart, who used to be the technical director at World Superbikes, he's come out and said, need to even things out a bit because it's a bit I don't agree with that at all. Alvaro Bautista is winning on that Ducati Panigale V4R because it's just the perfect combination. It is a rider in the best form of his life, riding the best he has ever ridden. And that's crazy to think that at, 36, 37 years old now, Alvaro Bautista, that we're seeing the best of Alvaro on what is the best motorcycle in the paddock. So it's, yes, there's no doubt that the tiny stature of Alvaro Bautista on the Ducati helps him with top speed and maybe acceleration. We still got to brake, still got to corner, still got to do all those things. And this is the same Bautista that was in MotoGP and was on a Honda in World Superbikes, and the weight didn't seem to come into play then. He was being beaten by the likes of Valentino Rossi, who's been a much taller rider than Alvaro Bautista, just to name a couple, Jorge Lorenzo and a couple of other riders. He was beaten by them in MotoGP, didn't pick up a win in MotoGP, if I stand to be corrected there. So, the weight didn't come into play there as much. Yes, World Superbikes is more production-based, I understand that. But when he was on the Honda, didn't come to play in that much. His first season with Ducati in World Superbikes, dominated, lost out to Johnny Ray in the end because something just went wrong with Bautista and Ducati. But he's come back, and this new evolution of the V4R from last year to this year is just, it's almost as if Ducati somehow extracted the DNA out of Alvaro Bautista, put it in the motorcycle, and the two are just inseparable. That's the perfect combination. So, yeah, I don't agree with the weight limit penalty. I don't think that's justified in my mind. If you look at Bautista as well on the Ducati, if you take away his wins, and what is it, 14 out of 15 or 13 out of 14 so far this year, you take those wins away, I think Rinaldi would have picked up one or two. And then the rest would be either, Toprak Razgadioglu or Johnny Ray. So, the Ducati, if it was Ducati 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, fine, understandable. But it's not. It's Bautista getting the job done on the Ducati out front, and then kind of the rest playing catch up in many ways. Not even any of the other Ducati riders can do what Alvaro Bautista is doing on that Ducati. So, yeah, I'm a Alvaro Bautista fan. There's no denying it, but you have to respect what he's doing on that machine at his age, where he is at this point in his career. To be doing what he's doing is fantastic, and hats off to him, and hats off to Ducati as well, because many people say, Ducati get treated differently and they play by different rules. They don't. The same rule book that applies to Ducati applies to everyone in the World Superbike paddock. What Ducati have done is just pushed that envelope, just pushed the absolute maximum to the limit of that rule book to get the best out of their production version. Yes, they've got a production V4R that costs a gazillion rand and a gazillion dollars and only limited and whatever. But they did that so that they could bring that bike, homologate it into World Superbikes and dominate. Kawasaki can do the same, and they do with their RR version. It's just nowhere near like a Ducati Panigale V4R, even in production form. Same with Yamaha with their R1M. BMW have closed that gap in terms of machinery with their M1000RR, which is, almost a fully spec MotoGP bike. But Ducati have got it right. They've got the mix right. If you look at the evolution from the 1299, the step they made from the 1299 Panigale, it was already very competitive, but they were losing out to Johnny Ray and Kawasaki, and they made the step to the Panigale V4. That was a massive jump for them. They changed everything. They threw every single resource they could at it. And now they're bearing the fruits of that. They're reaping the rewards of their hard work, time, dedication, and pouring money and resources into it. You look at Kawasaki's step in terms of evolution of the ZX10 model in the last 10 years. Yeah, that 2012, 2014, they kind of made a nice step. But other than that, it's just been these tiny little steps, nothing compared to what Ducati have done. Same with Yamaha. The Big Bang R1 is still one of the best production machines. It's fantastic, and it's one of the most user-friendly in terms of you buy it as a track day rider, you climb on it, you turn the key on, and you can go and you'll feel comfortable. Whereas a Panigale V4R needs a little bit of fine-tuning, and, it's a little bit harsh to some. The R1 is purpose-built, for a wider range of track day riders. But again, they haven't made this massive leap. They don't even have wings on their production superbike at the moment, the R1M. Kawasaki went with this integrated in. Kawasaki's latest version of the ZX10 is a slight update. They've changed the fairing a bit, wider bars, made it more uncomfortable for the everyday rider. That's what they've done. And changed the internal gear ratios a little bit. It's nothing like what Ducati did from Panigale 1299 to Panigale V4. And that is where the big problem is at the moment. Yamaha and Kawasaki, if they want to start competing more, they need to just step it up. They need to just throw money at it. And at this point in time, it doesn't look like they're doing it. No new R1 potentially for next year, no new Kawasaki for next year. So they're going to have the same problem. Johnny Ray, even despite where he is in his career, slightly older and that, he's still not a 4th, 5th, 6th place rider. He's not. Toprak Razgarioglu is getting everything he possibly can out of that R1. If you look where he is compared to the next R1, although Agurta is doing a fantastic job, I think. But, Razgarioglu is the closest competitor really to Alvaro Bautista when Rinaldi keeps it up on two wheels. He's there or thereabouts. But you can't take anything away from Ducati and Alvaro Bautista. They are doing everything, pouring their resources into it, doing the hard work. And, the rewards are there for everyone to see. Is it making the racing boring? Yes, it is. But they've now limited the Ducati slightly in RPM. That's made no difference to Alvaro Bautista. He's still dominating, as he proved here in Mizano. And Toprak Razgarioglu, I think, the same thing can be said with the Yamaha MotoGP project. I think Razgarioglu's made the move to BMW because he's just seeing the lack of development when it comes to Yamaha. And, you look at Quartararo in MotoGP saying, well, we're pretty much on the same bike from the last 5-6 years, with these tiny little increments and changes compared to the others that have made these giant leaps, the KTMs, the Ducatis, they've all got it right. We're doing these funny little things that, aren't really taking us to that next step. And Toprak's looked at this and gone, BMW have got a package. BMW have got a package there with the M1000R. If you look what it's doing in various championships around the world, Moto America, British Superbikes, okay, yes, I know the depth of field is completely different and there's more factory supporting World Superbikes and but they've got a great baseline package there. Unfortunately for BMW in World Superbikes at the moment, they haven't got the riders committed enough to the project. Scott Redding, come out again and showing his true colors there with this whining attitude and just complaining about everything and not getting it right. Michael van der Mark just can't seem to get a break, or he gets a lot of breaks just with bones, unfortunately, but he just can't seem to put this consistent rhythm together. And that's what you need when you're trying to develop a bike and develop a project. And they're not getting that from Michael van der Mark. Garrett Gerloff, I think, has been a great addition. He's brought a different aspect to it, brought a bit of that Yamaha knowledge to the project. And then Loris Baz, been there, done that. You need a fresh approach. And these are all tall riders. You look at Baz, Scott Redding, Michael van der Mark, they're all really tall riders. And, they're the ones really kind of voicing their opinions when it comes to Alvaro Bautista and his size. So yeah, BMW need the fresh approach. I think Toprak Razgatlioglu will give them that. My only concern with Toprak at BM is if you watch Toprak, we all know on the Yamaha, very front end, he demands a lot from the front end, especially under hard braking. And one of the biggest complaints from the BMW camp, certainly when I was out at Estoril last year, was in the braking department. They just didn't have the bite, the feel. They didn't have the progression. They didn't have the longevity. After 4 or 5 laps, all the BMW riders said brake fade comes in and you can't stop the bike. Yes, they moved over to the Brembo system for this year. The factory team doesn't seem to be making much of a difference there. So yeah, Toprak's going to have to work at that. But as I said, there's a great base package there for Toprak to work with the M1000RR. And I think Toprak looked at Yamaha and said, right, you can offer me all the money in the world, but I want progression. If I'm going to be riding the same motorcycle again for the next year, 2 years potentially, nothing's going to change. Whereas BMW said, yeah, we've got a package. Come with your ideas. Let's change it around you, and let's go after Alvaro Bautista and Ducati. So yeah, I'm excited to see how that turns out, because something needs to be done at this stage. Look at the championship after another dominating weekend from Bautista. 3 race wins, all dominant. Toprak Razgatlioglu did his utmost to try and disrupt the rhythm of Bautista, and you could see the frustration there from Toprak because he just doesn't know what more to do. He literally went around the outside and the inside, came from, and it just doesn't work. Alvaro Bautista is 86 points ahead of Toprak Razgatlioglu, and we've had, 4 or 5 rounds? I mean, there's still a lot of championship left. Listen, if anything, MotoGP taught us last year, it's not over until it's over with Bagnaia and his 93 points that he made up to win the championship there. But Toprak Razgatlioglu in second place, Andrea Locatelli in third, Johnny Ray in fourth, Axel Bassani in fifth, Rinaldi in sixth. So yeah, it's up to the others to catch up. To end off the Bautista discussion, Bautista is not just winning races because of his size. He's winning races because him and that Ducati Panigale V4 are just the perfect combination. And yeah, I can see it. Bautista is riding, and he's come out and said it, he's riding the best he has ever ridden. If you put him on a MotoGP bike now, and I hope he does get that test that everyone's talking about, and potentially a wild card. I don't know if the wild card will happen, but I would love to see it, because I think Bautista is in the perfect frame of mind now. He's changed up his whole routine, his whole approach to racing, and we're seeing the best version of Alvaro Bautista we ever have before. So yeah, looking at Bautista after the weekend in the record books, Johnny Ray, top all-time wins in World Superbikes on 118, Cole Fogarty 59, Troy Bayliss on 52, and Alvaro Bautista now on 45. So he's already overtaken Noriega there. So Bautista, in a very short space of time, is now starting to really close up. And you think the 2 years that he wasted at Honda almost, where he could have been. So yeah, it's all in Alvaro Bautista and Ducati's court at the moment. Are they going to be beaten? I don't think so, unless something drastically happens to them. I think it's their title to lose. Bassani versus Rinaldi. I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying this rivalry, Bassani versus Rinaldi. We saw 1 or 2 moves again this weekend. Rinaldi showing up the inside. Good, clean, hard racing. I wouldn't say there was anything malicious or anything. Good, clean racing. But for sure, that is a big question of, Bassani is fighting. He wants to be in a factory Ducati seat. At this point in time, no matter what he does, it just doesn't seem to be talking of him in a factory Ducati seat. There's the rumors of Zarco potentially coming. Petrucci is still being mentioned there, which I don't think is really fair, because Bassani is getting the work done, and he's, the most consistent of the second Ducati riders on the grid at the moment. Ruben Rinaldi showed that he's got the pace, but it just seemed to be these little one-off rides here and there. There's just no consistency to him. So I'm enjoying that little rivalry. Bassani, there's talk that now he could be potentially headhunted by Honda, who lost out on the signing of Toprak Razgatlioglu. They need someone, because Lackawanna, we know how fast he is, but there's just no consistency there. Vieja, is putting a lot more consistent performances in, but, is he really that name that's going to, take you into that top 5, week in, week out, top 4, top 3? I don't think so. Will Bassani be that name? Nothing against Axel Bassani. He's doing a fantastic job, but, I do think riding the Ducati is putting him, closer to the front of the field. I think if he goes to Honda, look what happened to Bautista and all the other guys, I don't know. But how do you then say no to a factory Honda contract when Ducati are still offering you the satellite option? So it's a tough one for him. There's also talks about him going to Kawasaki in place of Alex Lowe's potentially. Yamaha, the second Yamaha seat is up for grabs now. That Toprak Razgarioglu is leaving at the end of the 2023 season. So the Pisani kind of talking point is still very much a big question mark there. I've spoken about the BMW riders, and Scott Redding is he's fallen off the wagon. He just doesn't seem bothered about motorcycle racing to me at the moment. Scott Redding, he's really enjoying his cycling. But what that's doing is, as I've spoken about it a couple of times, I've seen the man, his legs are literally, one leg is the size of me. He is massive. So he's this, fit racer, but when your one leg weighs the same as the guy out front that you're trying to beat, so anyway, I just think Scott Redding's mind is elsewhere at the moment. I don't think it's fully focused on the BMW project, and they need fully focused riders. Scott Redding's not that guy. Scott Redding's that kind of guy. Put him into a setup and a project that is, fully running and up to scratch. You'll get the best out of Scott Redding. When there's those tough days and you need to work hard at it and you need development, I don't think Scott Redding is that rider. And I'm a fan of Scott Redding, but I just don't think he's that rider. And that's why BMW needed to make this move. That's why they needed to do whatever they could to get Toprak Razgarioglu, and I think they've done a brilliant thing in signing him. They've just got to make it work now. They've got to pour everything into him, because who else do they pour it into? Redding? No. Van der Mark? No. Gerloff? Good option, but is he a Toprak? I don't think so. And Loris Baz? No. So BMW full focus on Toprak Razgarioglu. Honda, big. I've spoken about them. The problems there. Lackawanna, I know he's talking about he wants to go back to MotoGP potentially after he had his wild card ride in place of Marc Marquez. Not doing enough in that World Superbike paddock just yet. Again, very inconsistent. Crashed out, missed out on race 2 on Sunday. Just not getting the most out of him. Speaking about MotoGP riders that have come over, Remy Gardner. I thought by now he would have kind of found his feet and a little bit more form and challenging top 5. Still hasn't quite clicked. Beaten week in, week out by his teammate Dominic Ogier, who's doing a fantastic job again. A rider at the peak of his powers. At the age of 32, we've seen the best of Dominic Ogier, and why not give him the full factory Yamaha ride? He's doing a fantastic job. I've become a big fan of Dominic Ogier, Moto E World Champion, World Supersport World Champion, and now a firm contender in World Superbikes for that top 5. So hats off to Dominic Ogier. Great job. Let's see more out of him. But Remy Gardner, let's give him the year. But where to for Remy Gardner if it doesn't work out next year in World Superbikes? Will he call it quits and just go surfing? I think that could happen with the type of Remy Gardner. Again, a rider that wants to go racing, but is he as fully in love and committed to racing as the likes of Johnny Ray, Toprak, and those? This is just me talking, but I don't think so. A lot for Remy Gardner to do to still prove his worth in the World Superbike paddock. And then further down, the likes of Lorenzo Baldassari. There's some big names there not getting it right. Philip Ertel, these kind of guys are just not really making things happen. And that brings me to my next point. The rumors coming out of the paddock from the Mizano round are big ones. Massive, massive, massive ones. Ducati looking to take even more of a stranglehold on the World Superbike paddock and kind of do what they're doing in MotoGP and just flood the grid with Ducati machinery. And why not? A lot of the other teams will be looking at it going, well, we're wasting our time with these Kawasaki's and everything else, and there's no development. There's nothing happening with these bikes. So just to go through, and I'm literally taking this off one of my mates, one of his Facebook pages, MotoGP News. Go follow them on Facebook. As I said, very up to date and great knowledge, great inside information. That's always very, very accurate. Jonathan Borg and his team there, they most of the time get it right. And reading the latest rumors is potentially more Ducatis on the grid. Nicholas Bulliger getting the job done in World Supersport on a Ducati. Are they going to make room for him potentially in Petrucci's place, potentially in Axel Bassani's place, and then the Moto Corsa team? Moto Corsa looking at potentially putting 2 bikes on the grid for next year. So could that be those 2 riders? Ducati's problem is they've got this influx of riders. They've got so many options. Zarco coming from MotoGP, Bulliger, they've still got Petrucci, they've got Pisani, they've got Rinaldi. Will Rinaldi go from the factory team down into the Moto Corsa team? There's all these developments. But I think one of the biggest biggest rumours that came out of this weekend, because we saw the likes of Franco Morbidelli hanging out with Yamaha World Superbikes in their box. Plenty to talk about him potentially taking that second seat in the full factory Yamaha World Superbike team. I don't know if Rossi and them will let that happen. I think they want to keep him in MotoGP, potentially under the VR46 Muni Yamaha team on a Ducati there. I think Morbidelli would want to stay there. But, this is modern day world of racing. Could I see Morbidelli move to World Superbikes? I could. I think, he could be happier in that paddock, a Franco Morbidelli, who's a delicate flower in many ways. But there was another big name, and a big name we haven't seen gracing our racetracks for a long time. Andrea Iannone was back on the grid, not on a bike, but he was on the grid talking to riders, talking to teams, showing his face, and he was in the paddock at Mizano, and there's big talk that he will be on the grid for the 2024 season on board one of those now almost 10 Ducati machines that'll be on the grid for the World Superbike Championship next season. So that is a big bombshell, big news coming out of the paddock. I really hope it happens. I think it'll add some extra flavor to World Superbikes. I think it'll add a little bit extra spice to see Andrea Iannone back on a grid and on a competitive Ducati. Why not? Sounds absolutely fantastic. So that is it for this episode of Paddock Talk. I hope you've enjoyed it. Nice and long one, 21 minutes, but a lot to talk about in World Superbikes. As I said, Bautista and Ducati making it a little bit boring, but you have to respect what they're doing. You have to appreciate it. I love watching him. He makes it look so effortless and so easy. Love watching Toprak get all kinds of out of shape and sideways, trying to stop the steam train that is Alvaro Bautista, and then everyone else just playing catch up. But I think the moral of the story here is, well done Ducati, well done Alvaro, well done Toprak riding the wheels off it. But the likes of Kawasaki, Yamaha, BMW, you've got to step it up. You've got to step it up to bring back that excitement to World Superbikes and try and close the gap down to Alvaro Bautista, who, let's not forget, will be in the championship once more for the 2024 season. So let's hope they can find a solution and find it quick. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and check out our Facebook page for more live updates and just content throughout the day, and keeping you all up to date with all the various championships around the world. MotoGP, World Superbikes, Moto2, Moto3, Moto America, and the list goes on. Goodbye.